welcome back to Fred up in his Radio Shack. I hope you're all well watching this video. Right, we're going to get some action from the radio in a moment, but what I want to talk about on this video is a question that has been coming up recently more and more in the comments, and it's mainly about people wanting to come back to CB radio, mostly sideband CB radio, and they ask me, Fred, what's the best radio? Is it worth getting a CRT 6900 or the Alinco 135, which is a very similar radio, sometimes called the Alinco DX10. I think they're changing the name. Let me just explain one thing for the complete newbies that are coming back to radio, because it is a little bit confusing. These radios that I'm talking about in this video, the CRT 6900N and the Alinco 135 DX10, these are not type approved radios if you're here in the UK to use on the CB frequency. What these are basically ham 10 meter radios. These are 10 meter transceivers, and they are reprogrammed to work on the 11 meter CB band. They work really well. That's why we use them. But because of that, because of their power output and the fact that they can tune up to 10 meters on the ham frequencies, they're not type approved here in the UK, so they are illegal. So if you decide to go down the dark route, the dark side, and you buy one of these radios, like we all have, to be perfectly honest, these are not legal radios, and you run a slight risk of prosecution. So let me just get that out the way, it's important. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question. I haven't got an Alinco 135 or DX10 radio, but I know Awesome Dave's got one, and also Pucker Dave. So in a moment, I'll be showing you some radio content, because I just went on the radio and asked their opinion. Generally, the Alinco 135, it's sort of known to be a slightly better quality than the CRT 6900. Now, I get on with my CRT 6900 really well. Once you do one thing with it, and I'll get back to that in a moment. But generally, if you're coming from CB radio, especially in the old days, it's a nice gentle step up to kind of HF gear, because you've got a channel select, you've got a channel readout there on LED, and then also it gives you the frequency and it shows you the mode and everything else. So it's not such a big change that if you're going to go from CB and then you're going to go over to sort of HF radio where you have to manually tune it in or set the presets. You've also got a lot of buttons on the front of the fascia, and yeah, there is menus. There is a menu system if you want to go into it. To be honest, I don't bother with mine, but mostly all the stuff you're going to need, the high cut, the Roger bleep, the function buttons there, it's all little buttons on the front of the radio. So it's a nice gentle learning curve. Is it worth spending the extra bit of money? And we're only talking, well, I think we used to be talking about £30 extra to jump up from the 6900 to the Alinco 135, but I think that's even less now. I've seen a £10 difference. Just to let you know, in general, looking on nights, the 6900 when it's in stock sells for about £160 UK, and the Alinco sells for £190, but I have seen it at 170, so there's only £10 difference between the radios. Now, one thing that really bugs me, right, before I get onto the specs of the radio, the one thing that I really do not like about the 6900 is it comes with this crappy microphone, in my opinion, okay, only in my opinion. It's got the M6 microphone, and to be honest, I find that the audio from the microphone is very flat. I can generally tell when someone comes on the 305 and they're using a 6900 and they're using one of these M6 microphones, their audio is very thin, it's very flat. And it's such a shame, because the 9900, that comes with the I think the M9 or the M7 microphone, which can't cost any more to produce, but CRT always give you this crappy M6, and it annoys me in a way, because I've looked at other CRT radios. For example, the CRT 2000 comes with an M7 microphone, which is a far better microphone. The CRT Xeon Again, that's a cheap radio. That comes with an M7. Even a little CRT 1N, which is a 50 quid radio, comes with the better M7 style microphone, but they give you this crappy little M6. And the Alinco, unfortunately, because the Alinco is based on the 6900, it seems, it has the same crappy microphone. They call it the EMS 70. But in my opinion, it's not the best microphone for the radio. It's not all bad news. It's just a little bit of extra expense. I found non-powered wise. I used the DMC 110, which is about a £15 microphone, and Knights have always wired it to the radio of my choice, free of charge. So that was included. I don't know if that's still the case. I haven't bought a microphone off Knights for a while. But it's an extra £15 on the price. If you're someone that likes a power microphone, which means you don't have to talk directly into the microphone, you can hold it a little bit away from your face, you haven't got to chew the microphone. I know for a fact there's two microphones that work extremely well with the 6900, and they should work exactly the same with the DR Alinco 135. That is the KPO 532. This microphone's been out a long time now. I own one. I've had it working on the 6900. Pucker Dave has had his one working on the 6900. Works really well. They're normally around about £30. They can be out of stock. They're very popular. And another one is the Cobra, the M75 microphone. Quite a nice big chunky power microphone. I haven't got one myself, but I've heard that on the 6900, and that sounds epic as well. Now, just moving to the specs, this might be important for some people. The 6900, and I'm sure this hasn't changed, used to be available in two power settings. There was a low power or normal power and then the high power. On the low power, it was 4 watts AM, 4 watts FM, and then 12 watts on sideband. So that was legal UK power, although the radio is still illegal because it doesn't match the specs of a legal radio. And then there was the high power version, which is what this is, and that was quite useful. That gave 40 watts on FM, which is quite a lot out the back of a radio, and 35 watts on sideband, which is plenty. I went to Italy on my radio just on 30 watts, got a lovely signal, absolutely 5x9 to Italy on 30 watts. So yeah, that's quite useful. I mean, just for reference, this radio, or the one that's in the shed downstairs, I had a few little issues with it when I got it, and I went inside, which is unusual for me, and I turned down the power output. So my one now on sideband is just over 20 watts. I think the last time I put it on a meter it was about 22 or 23 watts, and that is absolutely fine. I can get around to everyone on the 305 net with that. I've had Germany, I've had France, I think we got South Africa once, just on that amount of power. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. Now the Alinco DR-135 or DX10 out of the box isn't as powerful as the high powered version of the 6900. That does 12 watts on FM and 25 watts on sideband. Now when you think about it, 12 watts on FM, you might think, oh, I wish I had the 40, but 12 watts is still 3 times UK legal power. And unless you've got a lot of noise on that particular day and people are having trouble hearing with their sort of noise, 12 watts on FM will get you quite a long way, and 25 watts on sideband is absolutely perfect. It's pretty much what I'm running on my 6900. I can tell you for a fact 25 watts on sideband is absolutely fine, unless there is a lot of noise, or maybe if you're shooting skip and there's a big pile up, then there's some more powerful stations, they might go over you, but then you're going to be struggling anyway. So that's the spec. This one is slightly more powerful. The Alinco, I think what I've heard, the controls are slightly better. It may just be slightly better made. Alinco have just sort of made it a little bit nicer. It's also a little bit smaller. I found that out today talking to the guys on the radio. So that's my opinion, but I haven't got the two radios to compare, which is a shame. One day I might have, but I'm going to go on. Well, I did go on the radio a little earlier, and we spoke to Awesome Dave and also Pucker Dave. They both own both versions of this radio, the 135 and the 6900. So I was interested to get their opinions, and their opinions were a little bit split, but basically they said that both radios are perfectly fine. But let's hear what they've got to say. I did this on the Yaesu 450. And anyway, thanks for listening to my intro, and here comes the guys that really know what they're talking about on the 305 group, Awesome and Pucker. Thanks for watching. Yeah, the audio quality is really good. I've got you coming in just a little bit high. I've had to clarify you at plus 15, but other than that, it's absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I've only had it on long, so once it warms up, it puts itself right, you know. So happy days. Yeah, it seems to work okay. I like the old 6900. You know, it's always been one of my favourites, really.
You know, it's been out a long time now. It's quite an old radio, going back to the Quad 5, wasn't it? It was the Anytone 555 when it first came out. But I still think it's hard to beat it. I mean, value-wise, I know the controls seem a little bit flimsy compared to some radios, but value for money, really, you know, for what it does and how well it receives, it's got a very sensitive receiver. I still recommend it. I still think that it's really good value for money, and there's not a lot else out there that gives you the bang for the buck, Dave. Over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, if anybody said to me what did I think of the 6900N, I'd highly recommend it. I mean, you know, value for money. It's a great radio for what it does. Yeah, the controls are a bit light, but you know, as long as you don't bang them about too much, and you know, not like a bull in a china shop, I don't think a lot of people have had trouble with them. I mean, you always get the occasion, but you know, touch wood, I've been very pleased with mine. And always, once it warms up, it's always on frequency and that. So yeah, you know, even when people have gone on Facebook and said, well, what do you reckon on the 6900, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a radio that I recommend on the channel, especially for people starting out, because it's got the sort of CB type controls. You've got a basic channel select. You've got plenty of buttons on the fascia as well. It's not too menu based. I mean, you can go into the menu, and obviously you can do a lot more with it. Adjust all of the different sort of Roger bleep tones and everything like that, which I don't think anyone's going to really muck about with that too much. But you've got a lot of surface mount buttons on the fascia, so it's not too difficult to pick up. And of course, it's fully channelized as well, so you can't sort of bugger up its programming too much, unlike the 9900, where if you forget where you were when you sort of changed channel, you can alter the presets. But no, I think it's a good radio. You've got the Alinco 135, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah, Roger on that. Yeah, I've not got that on. Well, obviously it's a bit here there, but that's a bit off frequency till it warms up. But once it warms up, it's fine.
Yeah, that's a Rog. Well, obviously, I think the Alinco is based very heavily on the 6900N, isn't it? Although the controls are slightly placed differently on the front panel. But I mean, quality-wise, Dave, how do you reckon the way the radio handles the controls and the buttons? What do you think? Is there any difference between the 135 and the 6900? Over.
Well, I think I prefer the 6900 because obviously it's a bigger radio. The Alinco, even though it's a nice radio, I should imagine it'll be okay for mobile use and that. But if you've got big hands and that, it's a bit small.
Oh, okay. I always imagined they were about the same size.
No, a lot smaller. Yeah, a lot smaller, like sort of virtually DIN size-ish.
Oh, okay. I never realised that. So I've not owned one. I always figured that if my 6900 gave up the ghost, I might upgrade to it. People sort of said that the controls for them, you know, they sort of felt a little bit better. But it still comes with the little Mickey Mouse sort of cheap microphone, doesn't it, Dave?
Yeah, Roger on that. Yeah. But I mean, Ian down in Tottenham, he uses the Alinco with the standard mic, and he cracks out up here. Mind you, he's on the 13th floor of a block of flats in Tottenham, but he's managed to, his mate lives on the 18th floor, and he's managed to get his mate to help him put a half halfway silver rod up on the top of the building and got a cable right the way down, and he absolutely crashes into it.
So let's bring Mr. Awesome in. So yes, AMC 33. Good afternoon.
Afternoon all. Hope everybody's well and enjoying the wet weather.
Oh yeah, we are dodging showers. Yeah, break acknowledged. I'll try and get you in a moment. And so I'll get your opinion, Dave, because you had a 6900 and you chucked it in the bin. And have you had a 135 Alinco?
Yeah, I've still got one. There's nothing wrong with the 6900. The 6900 is awesome. I sold that on and the guy still uses it. It was the 9900 that I never really got on with, but that was probably me. But yeah, the 135, I mean, I bought that off of Ed. Tim knows Ed, and he'd only had it a few months. Yeah, I used it on all the AMC, and then everybody else, a few other guys got them, like Turvy Turv, I think you spoke to him before, standard mic, absolutely bangs it. Much better audio than what you seem to get out of a 6900. And as Tim said, all the Hilltoppers use them. We managed to, or Tim managed to get one for 4 watt pull, and you know, that made a hell of a difference. Yeah, they're bloody good radios. I don't know what Alinco do to them, but they do something with them. Although it's got the same operating system as a 6900, I would rate it over the 6900 that I had. It is smaller, but more compact. Yeah, it does the job, mate.
What about you, Dave? Have you had any comments when you first start using it?
Yeah, they're normally a little bit funky monkey when you first turn them on, like anything, until the little oven that the crystal sits in gets up to temperature. However, I know the plumber, I can't remember his bloody name, I spoke to him today, innit? Jolly Joel. I know his one's a bit funky, but there's a engineering setting or a hidden setting that you can get into, and you can actually adjust it to a point. But yeah, I mean, you sound okay to me, I think. Yeah, happy days, mate. Anyway, have a lovely dinner, Dave. Good to hear your voice, mate. I hope you're well.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Cheers, Tim, and cheers Fred. Anybody else is on there, I've got to disappear there. So if you're about nice and early in the morning, we'll catch you on this one. Cheers, fellas. Or if you're on at 7 o'clock tonight, take care, fellas. All the best. Voy a hacer un chequeo vaginal.